they should have condensed this thing down into like 6 to 8 episodes for the season. And welcome back to the Sundowners Club. I'm your host, Sean, and to my right, my buddy Sterling. What's up?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. So we're going to get into Andor episode 9 today, which was titled Nobody's Listening. Before we get started with that, remember, if you like what you see today, leave a comment below, hit the like button, and most importantly, hit subscribe so that we can grow the channel. With that, let's get right into Andor episode 9. So last week, I was a little bored by the what I call the prison episode, Narkini 5. And this week, we open with a character that I like, Deidre, with the ISB. And Deidre is questioning, and then she employs a pseudo-doctor to torture Bix on the planet Ferrix, which is where Andor's from, and to find out what she knows about this character that she only knows is Axis, which we know is Luthen, and also about the whereabouts of Cassian Andor, because Deidre knows that Cassian's a link to finding who is leading the beginnings of the rebellion in Luthen, and maybe beyond Luthen. So, one of the things that I want to get your thoughts on, we start to see in this scene the beginnings of Deidre being a true villain, and she's all in. You see that fascist style Gestapo type character, right? That she talks about enjoying dialogue and conversation, but the torture she doesn't mind either. Whichever way she needs to get her information, she's going to get it. Did you like the fact that they kind of slow played her into starting to become a villain, and that power? The more power she's getting, the more that's coming out in her? Or do you like that, or do you feel like that they could have done that in earlier episodes? Or what were your thoughts about that scene?
I saw that coming. I felt like it was pretty predictable. She plays that part well, but she's exactly what you would expect like an Imperial officer to be, and you kind of see her go into that. But I don't know if it's that interesting to me. I think she does a really good job with the role, but it's I think most people kind of saw that coming. I did.
Yeah, so she's much more in the vein of Moff Tarkin and those
she's
others.
like a female Moff Tarkin.
That's right. Yeah. So initially in the beginning of the season, I thought she was going to maybe turn and join the rebellion. I'm not thinking that now.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think she's going to turn. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. That would be a pretty drastic turn. It reminded me of Breaking Bad in a sense that they cut between the scene of Bix screaming as she's being tortured and Cassian drilling in the shift for the parts that they're making, the Death Star parts or whatever the parts that they're making in the prison system, Narkini 5. And that was, to me, that seemed like a little bit of an homage or throwback to something similar to Breaking Bad, where one scene cuts into the next with sound. And so I thought that was well done. We cut to Mon Mothma, and the earlier scenes in the episode of Cassian were more the same. He's talking to Chemo, played by Andy Serkis, and asking about guards, and we know he's hiding tools and things to try to do a prison break. We know that. It seemed like there was a little bit of time wasted there. Yeah. Then we cut to Mon Mothma, who's speaking in the Senate, and characters are turning off their pods, and so she's dejected, and then she leaves and is told, "Hey, your cousin's waiting for you at the house," right? So she goes back, and we find out that Vel is there, and Vel is Mon Mothma's cousin.
Yep.
So that was a little bit of a tie-in that I think wrapped up who is Vel and her role in the rebellion, I think, nicely. So it makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts around, we've seen Mon Mothma in Coruscant several times now. And the first couple of times we saw Coruscant, I was like, oh, cool. We're going back to Coruscant. We're going to see this. We're going to see that. It seems like nothing's happening.
Have you noticed the show has like a very select few places that it goes, and it just goes to those same places? Like you have the Mon Mothma's always at her house around the dinner table, and then you have the now the prison. I guess that's a new place, and then the place where Cassian Andor is from. They go back there, Ferris. So it's like it's I'm curious what the budget was. I mean, I know it's all probably on green screen anyways, but it's
Yeah,
you're just rendering like these select few areas, and a lot of the scenes are just unnecessary. I don't know how many dinner table scenes I need to see. I think they could have squeezed that all in on, and they keep going back to that, but it's
well,
just
the prison scenes are like that too, right? You've got the pods that they sleep in. You've got the room that we keep going back to over and over for the shifts that are being
you
done.
get the full construction of whatever they're making. Like we could see
We've
them
seen
build
it
the entire
30
thing
times.
over
At some
and over
point, you
again.
can there's something called editing. You can edit some of those scenes out, and the story doesn't suffer at all. So a little frustrated there. They show Cassian starting to build the plan for the prison escape. They mentioned counting the guards, hiding a pipe in the wall, and Chemo, played by Andy Serkis, is not having any of it, saying stay in line. People are going to do their time, their shifts, and then they're going to get out. And Cassian clearly doesn't believe that. And so then we cut to, I thought was an interesting scene, and they have this every other episode or so where you have to, read between the lines or listen to things that are said. The character that visits Mon Mothma, Tay Kolma, that she asked in a previous episode for help with moving money around. She knows she's going to get audited, so to speak, by the Empire. She's worried about that, and she's trying to fund the rebellion. So Tay Kolma comes to her and says, look, I've got a way to hide the money and to move it around, but we're going to have to bring in this character that's in essence a money launderer called Davo Skolden. And I don't know who Davo Skolden is. I'm interested to see who's going to play Davo. Her character, Mon Mothma, is clearly taken aback by that, worried, calls him a thug or calls Davo a thug.
Think we'll get an alien?
I hope. We're in the Star Wars universe, and I know this show's for adults, but we've got nothing but humans, and they're again no aliens. There really aren't even any droids. So there's so many things.
There's been a couple droids. There's Cassian's partner droid, and then
right.
the one that arrested him or caught him. So I mean, there's been a few.
Yeah, the K2SO.
There's been some of that, but
Then we have this scene where we had a scene last week where Cyril finally had a scene with Deidre, and then all of a sudden we get serial killer Cyril that shows up and is stalking Deidre, and I guess as an actor he's told to have this look on his face, but tries to convince her that their views are aligned. Cassian's key to this. There's more going on. She shoots him down. Tells him, "Look, I got you promoted. I helped you out, but if you keep up with this, you're going to pay a price." So she shoots him down, but it was a weird scene. I didn't really know what to take away from the scene, other than what I already knew about Cyril and what I already know about Deidre. So the scene didn't really do much for me. But she does mention she's focused. We learned that Deidre is focused on the capture of a rebel pilot and bringing them in for questioning without alarming a separatist leader named Anton Krieger. And they're trying to stop a raid that's planned at a power station on a place called Spellhouse or Spellhaus. And so there's a few things in there that you would say, okay, are they planting the seeds for something bigger that's going to happen? And it seems like that's the case. But again, I was thrown off of the scene by the Cyril. I don't know where they're going with Cyril, but
I think that's going to see. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think you'd mentioned earlier that you could see him turning, and I think he's going to have these advances towards what's her name? Deidre. Yeah. And I think she's going to reject him, and that's going to be what causes him to turn against the Empire. I think that's where they could be going.
I guess the rebellion could use a narcissistic serial killer on their team. They have Saw Gerrera.
He's got he knows how the Empire works. So that's kind of what I felt like where they were going with it. He's obsessed with her. She's obviously not feeling it, and that rejection could be what turns him against him.
I definitely see him having a chance to turn more than her at this point. Initially, I thought she may be a character that would turn. I don't believe that now, but and then towards the end of the episode, it's been building towards Cassian's trying to convince the team that they need to get out, there's some sign language that's going on as they're going back to their pods at the end of every workday, and they find out that everyone in level 2 has been fried. They're dead. And I think what happened was that someone mentions that someone was supposed to be released. They served their time, did their shifts, and their time was up, but they moved them to another level. So people found out there was a power outage, and everybody on level 2 was fried. And so the same time this happens, the older guy that's on their team, Uluf, I think is his name, has a stroke. They're holding him up. They're trying to get him to the end of the day. His time and shifts are about done. And so Chemo is thinking, hey, he's going to get out. Let's help this guy. And Cassian, doesn't know what's going on, but is trying to help him just like he helped the young guy on the ship that got crushed. And so earlier in the season, but we find out from the guy that comes in, which is another thing that takes me out of the Star Wars universe. This doctor shows up and he's got, with all the technology they have, they're on this planet, a prison system, and he's got lights looking in his eyes. And it was strange. We haven't seen anybody have a stroke before in the Star Wars universe, so that was a first. He basically puts him to death, Kevorkian style, and then then he makes a comment to him, nobody gets out of here. And so the episode ends with Cassian walking. They're told to go back and ask Chemo how many guards on this level, and he says 12. So we now know Chemo is in with Cassian. So
yeah, that's how it ends.
Which leads us into what are the final 3 episodes, 10, 11, and 12. And I like this episode a little bit better than episode 8, but that's not saying much. The last 2, my interest in it has dwindled a little bit. I feel like that there's still too much supposition. They've got to get to the payoff. We've got 3 episodes left. They've got to have what's going to lead them into the second season, which will be the final season. I hope they can do it, but they've got a lot to accomplish. They've introduced a lot of characters, and I have a feeling they're going to tie up some things, and we're going to go out with a bang in season 1 and for some of our characters. But I feel like there's other characters that are just there's not going to be any payoff until maybe season 2. But final thoughts on episode 9? Did you like it better than episode 8?
I'd say about the same. I mean, it's still pretty boring. I've got a lot of the same problems with it. Like it's not, the show's not badly done, but it's just slow and unnecessary right now for the most part that I can see.
Do you think the biggest issue with Andor
I want to
season
like
1
it
so far is editing? That they should have condensed this thing down into like 6 to 8 episodes for the season?
I do. I think it could have been done maybe 6 to 8. But like those dinner table scenes, a lot of that stuff could be done all in one scene. But they keep going back to that.
Yeah, they had the dinner scene. We didn't talk about.
We get it. She can't get her money moved. We understand that now. Like that's been clearly established. I don't know if we need 3 more episodes of that, and it just keeps going back to the same
So
stuff.
if you're going to introduce the Davo character, you could have done it with her leaving the Senate and Tacoma walking with her right before she gets into her pod or her shuttle, right? Like it could have been 30 seconds of I've got someone for you. It's Davo. Oh my gosh, and then you start. That's because that's all that was accomplished in that scene. And then Vale having dinner, where we clearly know that she has a certain lifestyle, and the character of the husband says, hey, you're not going to be, you haven't not married by now. No. I don't know what that accomplished. That didn't tell us any more about Vale, other than we already knew she's now from a life of privilege. But we knew that the minute Mon Mothma walked into the room. So I don't know. It's there's some of it that makes me think that they could have edited it down and accomplished everything they needed to for the story and made it more condensed and tighter. And but they haven't done that, so we'll see how it ends next week, and we'll be there to cover it. But as we wrap up, remember, if you like what you saw today, leave a comment below, hit the like button, and most importantly, subscribe so that we can grow the channel. And TCB.